Welcome, everyone, to the Get Wisdom podcast. For you folks maybe looking for a new way to do life, we're trying to figure out how to get unstuck, in any area of life, or maybe just meeting a new perspective on your current circumstance. Well, we can assist you with all of these things. You can check us out at www.getwisdom.cc. I'm Miranda.
And I'm Jay.
And today we'll be taking you through the white paper by Brent Ziemann, Natural Givers, Rediscovering the Language of Creation.
Right.
Our goal here is pretty straightforward, to give you some actionable insights, things you can use.
Yeah, definitely. And we're not just looking at communication tips today, are we? What Ziemann's outlined here, it's really foundational. He calls natural giving the deeper language, almost like the source code beneath every word you've ever spoken.
Wow. Okay, so the language before language almost.
Yeah.
Before grammar and all that.
Exactly. Think about that origin point, right? That nonverbal thing. It's the pulse behind a baby's cry.
Mm-hmm.
The warmth in a gesture, or even that silence that somehow says, I see you, That's the core language of creation itself.
Yeah.
And Ziemann argues we've largely forgotten it.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. How did we lose this native tongue?
Mm-hmm.
Because the paper makes a, frankly, pretty provocative claim right off the bat. It says violence didn't start with weapons.
Right.
It started with words. That kind of flips the script on how we usually think about conflict.
It really does. And what's fascinating is the sequence he lays out. Before war, before physical separation, there had to be miscommunication. And before oppression could even happen, there had to be interpretation.
Yeah.
A loss of clarity about the original, creative intent. We sort of traded creation for control.
So if you're listening and maybe dealing with a team that's not clicking or a relationship that feels really stuck, Ziemann's saying the problem isn't necessarily your skill at communicating. It might be the actual language you're interpreting and using. You're not just aiming to be a better communicator. It's more like you're a creator rediscovering your native tongue. That feels like a huge shift.
It is a huge shift because it forces us, really, to look at the power of our words differently.
Wow.
If we've been using this kind of broken language, one focused on control, how do we pivot?
Yeah.
And the paper gets specific here.
Right.
It defines words not just as, sound waves floating by,
Right.
but as light in motion.
Light in motion. Okay, that sounds poetic. But how does that work in the real world? Like in a tough performance review or a family argument?
Well, it boils down to intention and clarity. See, if your words are just sound, they're open to interpretation. And interpretation, like we said, that's where miscommunication and, violence can start. But if your words are light in motion, the idea is they're meant to illuminate, to reveal truth, to build something almost sacred. So walking into that difficult review, if your intention is genuinely to build, to shed light, to clarify a path forward, that's using the language of creation.
Okay, I see.
But if you're using, say, passive-aggressive language or holding back info to have subtle control, that's the old broken language of sound, just noise.
And that makes a lot of sense. So if we accept that maybe our usual way of talking is flawed, maybe geared towards control instead of creation, then Ziemann gives us a way back, right? These 5 laws of natural communication, like blueprints for rebuilding that native tongue. And they seem pretty grounded, tied to elements, real roadmap.
Exactly. They map these universal forces onto specific responsibilities in conversation, in life. Maybe we could start with the first couple. They deal more with our internal state, our perspective.
Let's do it.
Okay, first up is fire. This is the law of energy, and it's super actionable. Speak what gives life. Simple as that. In any interaction, you basically have to ask yourself about the energy of your words. Are they generating possibility, enthusiasm, clarity, or are they, draining the room, creating obligation, fear?
Oof. Yeah, that hits home immediately, especially for anyone in a leadership role. It's a real gut check. Like if I leave a meeting feeling totally wiped out, maybe I violated the law of energy for myself or for the team.
Precisely. And that flows right into the second law, earth. This represents the law of polarity. The action here is to feel the whole truth, which means acknowledging the complexity, the totality of a situation. It's about seeing and validating the other side's perspective, even if you don't agree with their conclusion.
Okay. Feeling the whole truth. For someone listening, that might sound a bit like avoiding a hard choice. Like fence sitting. How is it different?
That's a great question. It's actually the opposite of being non-committal. Polarity means you embrace the tension between opposing truths. So, for instance, a budget might be really tight and the project someone's proposing might be genuinely essential. Most people try to force a choice too early. A natural giver, using this law, would say, okay, yes, the financial strain is real. And the strategic need for this is also undeniable. Now, how do we create a solution that honors both? See, that integration requires more creation, not less.
I like that framing. It shifts conflict from being about subtraction, like who loses, to being a design challenge. How can we build something new here? Okay, so that's fire and earth. What about the next three? They seem to deal more with structure, action, and growth.
That's right. Next, we get metal. This governs the law of entropy. Metal is all about structure, boundaries, discipline. So its action is bring order to chaos.
Entropy usually makes me think of things falling apart, decay, right? So how does metal, which sounds kind of rigid, help reverse that and bring order, say, in a messy conversation?
Excellent point. Yeah. The decay, the entropy, happens when communication gets vague, when expectations aren't clear, when responsibilities are fuzzy. Metal cuts through that. It reverses entropy by demanding clarity, precision. It's like setting a boundary that says, nope, we won't tolerate this ambiguity anymore. It's about applying clear thinking to define the messy situation, break it down, turn those abstract worries into actual defined tasks. That's the force that orders the chaos. Then fourth, we have water. The law of force. Think about how water moves.
Yeah.
It always finds the path of least resistance, right? But it keeps its essential nature.
Yeah.
So the action here is move with integrity. Our words, our commitments, our internal truths, they all need to line up with our actual actions.
Move with integrity. Yeah, when I read that, I immediately thought about how easy it is to say you're committed to something
Right.
without actually doing the work. If I say, okay, team structure changes next month, but I don't actually start laying the groundwork now, I'm violating water, aren't I?
Exactly that. It's the alignment, the integrity between word and deed. If you're saying one thing but consistently doing another, you're just breeding distrust. You're disrupting that natural flow of force. And then finally, number 5 is wood, the law of leverage. Wood represents growth, expansion, moving upwards. So the instruction is grow through connection. We use communication not just to maintain things as they are, but to actively expand possibilities, to build relationships that last,
Yeah.
to seek out new horizons. If your communication isn't leading to some kind of expansion of knowledge, connection, opportunity, then, well, it's stagnant.
This whole framework is just, it's really powerful because it feels like the repair kit for that broken language we talked about at the start. If you're dealing with a tricky situation at work or some dynamic that just feels off, you can literally run it through these 5 filters. Am I speaking life? Fire? Am I seeing the whole picture? Or earth? Am I bringing clarity? Metal? Am I acting with integrity? Water? Am I fostering growth? Wood? It seems like a way to get clarity fast and avoid falling back into just interpreting noise.
That structure is absolutely vital. And it connects directly to the next big piece in the paper, which is about integrating power. Because having the tools, the 5 laws, it isn't quite enough if you don't understand the engine behind them, which is our often really flawed relationship with power itself. Ziemann argues humanity has misunderstood power for ages. We either worship it and try to dominate, or we fear it and try to avoid it completely. We rarely just integrate it.
Right. So he's saying you need both strength and kindness together. We often think of kindness, especially in business, as maybe a bit soft, weak even. Why does the paper insist that compassion without power is actually a failure?
Because that kind of compassion, without the strength to back it up, it just degrades into what Ziemann calls sentimentality. It's like well-meaning, sure, but ultimately ineffective. It feels nice, maybe, but it doesn't actually create needed change. It lacks the metal to bring order, the water to move with force when necessary, the fire to speak difficult truths that still give life. It's good intentions without the ability to actually deliver impact.
Okay, so if I'm a leader who wants to be kind, wants people to grow, but I never hold anyone accountable, or I never set clear, firm boundaries, I'm actually being sentimental, not powerfully compassionate.
Precisely. And the flip side is pretty obvious, isn't it? Power without compassion just becomes domination, pure control, oppression. The 5 laws, when you use them together, they are the integrated expression of power and compassion working hand in hand. Metal provides the structure, the power. Wood ensures growth through connection. That's the compassion. They have to exist together.
So the ultimate aim then is really speaking as a creator, bringing all these forces together in how we communicate, realizing our words are like sacred architecture. If we really embrace that, what would things look like?
Well, it changes everything, doesn't it? From the big picture down to the everyday. The paper asks us to imagine treating every single conversation as intentional, deliberate. That elevates communication from just a habit, something we do without thinking, to a conscious craft.
And the practical examples get really interesting then. Meetings aren't just calendar slots. They become ceremonies of clarity and disagreement, which we usually see as a breakdown, right? A sign something's wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
It gets reframed beautifully as an opportunity for discovery. That completely changes the dynamic. It's not about who wins anymore. It's what truth can we build together.
Mm-hmm.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you listening right now?
The big takeaway seems to be that this entire system hinges on attention and intention. It's not just about what you say or even how you say it. It's fundamentally about how you listen. The paper actually calls active listening the highest form of leadership, not just passively hearing, but actively creating space. Absolutely. If your words are light in motion, as Ziemann puts it, then your listening is the essential space that receives that light. It allows the active creation to actually begin, which kind of circles us right back to the beginning, doesn't it? That idea of the silence that says, I see you.
So maybe here's a provocative thought for you to take away and mull over. If every single word you spoke was truly intended to build something sacred, what foundational silence would you need to observe first, just to ensure your own intention is clear and sound?
That's a deep question, a fundamental question of creation, really. Wow. We've definitely covered a lot of ground today, from Brent Ziemann's white paper, Natural Givers, Rediscovering the Language of Creation. If you want to dive deeper into this material, really explore how these 5 laws could change things for you, you should reach out directly.
Yeah, you can contact Brent Ziemann directly. The number is 972-301-2878. Or you can send an email to getwisdomprinciple@gmail.com. And while you're online, please do check out our sponsors. They're the ones who make this possible and help us bring you these kinds of insights. Find them at www.getwisdom.cc/sponsors.
Thanks so much for tuning in today.
Yes, thank you for listening. We'll see you tomorrow right here on the Get Wisdom podcast.